Hello everyone, this is Bree Tobias. Welcome back to Art Supply Guide. Today I wanted to do a couple of simple craft projects just using the golden gel medium in a, I guess, less conventional way other than just mixing it in with acrylic paints and using it on the canvas. One example is I want to do a sort of relief design, meaning we want to have a raised area come up off of this paper. So I took just some 140-pound watercolor paper, I wet it, and then laid down some colors. So I kind of have a variation of blended colors there and some yellow and brown earth tones. And it is completely dry. What else I'm going to need is a stencil, and the stencil that I have here that I would like to use is going to be this fleur-de-lis design. Because there's more than one stencil on here, I'm actually just going to use a little bit of painter's tape, and I'm going to cover up some of those other designs. To apply it, we are going to use a palette knife, and we're going to actually just scrape that gel medium over the stencil before we lift it up off the paper. And what we'll do is let that dry for a few hours or overnight, depending on how long it takes, in order to let the gel medium dry completely, and we'll just take a look at the results and see how it turns out. Alright, it turned out pretty well. Just a few things to keep in mind when you do this is my watercolor paper, because I was working very quickly, I didn't tape it down whenever I did my wash. And a lot of times when you use a watercolor paper, it tends to buckle, and if you kind of see how it's just not really sitting very straight, that's because I did not tape it down to a board to let it dry. I took it over to a hair dryer and tried to dry it from both the front and the back, just to try to help flatten it out a little bit. And then whenever I went to lay down my stencil, the stencil started to kind of buckle with the paper, so I had to really struggle to hold it down flat. You don't want that matte medium to seep up underneath the edges of your stencil, or you're going to lose the definition of your design. So now what I'm going to do is just stick this in a safe place to dry, because it's going to need a few hours. And I'm actually going to take like a sharp tool or something right here, and I want to try to just gently lift away a tiny bit of that gel medium that got between the two parts of the base of this fleur-de-lis design. And after I do that, we're going to let it dry and then just check out how it looks once it is completely dried. Okay, this is an older project that I had created previously for this article, and what it is a piece of plywood, and it's like a heavier pine. It's really rough, but it didn't matter what grade of wood I used because I was going to cover it with the texture, and that little bit of extra tooth to the wood was great for holding that medium in place. So what I actually did to create this is, if you look closely, there is a lot of texture in this piece. And a number of different things created that texture. For example, I would trowel it on kind of like you would do a wall spackling or like a stucco method, and just took it and went over the wood. And I didn't mix any paint pigment into it. I just went straight onto the wood with the medium itself, and of course once it dried it was slightly transparent. And then I actually took the palette knife and did like a fan motion here, and then actually kind of cut into it here and there to create this bit of movement. And over here down below you can see that there is a spiral design. I kind of built up that area with the palette knife and came across it flat so it wouldn't have any texture interrupting the design. And then I actually just took a foam cutout stamp and pressed it into the matte medium to give me that design. And I went ahead and repeated it throughout just to kind of help break it all up. And you can see it up here and there. And then I actually just took a foam cutout stamp and pressed it into the matte medium to give me that design. And I went ahead and repeated it throughout just to kind of help break it all up. And you can see it up here and there you can see those spirals as well. Afterwards, this is a poly resin cross, and what I did was I painted this wood with brown, and actually took a watered down darker brown and went over the cracks because I really wanted it to kind of pick up some of those cracks and show more shadow and depth. And then I just took this cross and applied the gel medium to it and pressed it down into it, and then I came around and just painted around the edges to make sure that there was no other color showing. So it's been held on there pretty firmly, and I've actually been displaying this outside on my patio, and it's held up quite nicely. And you can actually, you know, add a hanger to the back, screw one in because it's thick enough wood. You could screw a hanger into it and you can display this on the wall, or you can prop it up onto like a photo easel. So this is just one more project to do. Okay, so here are my two examples. My fleur-de-lis here is fairly dry, and I really only gave it a couple of hours. I put it underneath the hair dryer just to try to speed it up. You can see how it's becoming more transparent. Because this is an acrylic, you can actually put more paint on top of it if you wanted to, but I kind of like the way it looks as is, just a little faint design there on the paper. This is something I could actually cut down and stick into a frame, or tear it out and incorporate it into some sort of paper collage. So there you have it. This is two examples of how to use the golden heavy gel medium. The more traditional way here of troweling it onto a surface and creating texture, and then applying the acrylic paint over it. And then the other slightly less traditional method of doing a relief design with stencil. And you can do so much with this medium. Just kind of play around with it and see what you can get. You get a lot of really interesting results, and definitely lots of texture. Thanks again for joining me, everyone, and I hope this was informative for you. If you like what you've seen in the video, go ahead and give me a subscribe and follow my channel. That way you can stay up to date with all the other art tutorials that I put out. Thanks, guys. See you next time.